What's up, guys? We're going to get started here in just a minute. All right. Shall we get started? There we go. We are live. What's up, guys? Hope you are enjoying your Sunday afternoon. It is November 7th. I don't know about you guys, but I got totally blindsided by daylight savings time today, which is actually a good thing because I was up much later than usual last night watching, what was it, UFC 267? 268? I lose track. 268. Usually I go to sleep around like 10:30ish because I prioritize sleep, and I think it's important, especially if you're going to be in the gym at around 7 in the morning like I am. But I woke up feeling super refreshed. I woke up like 30 minutes before my alarm. I'm like, man, I feel awake. I feel good. What the hell is going on? And then I went downstairs to have my breakfast and I realized, oh, all the clocks are wrong, but my phone's an hour behind. That must be what happened. Which also, when the hell are we going to finally end daylight savings time? This is the dumbest thing ever. One, having to coordinate some stuff. Like I have this guy I've been working with, a business coach, and we had to like re-coordinate all of our weekly calls, which is super annoying because he lives in a different country. They don't have daylight savings time because it's fucking stupid. But yeah, you have all that kind of stuff. And then apparently, like heart attacks, suicides, like a ton of stuff goes up every time the time changes. And I think it's about time we get away with this. We just get rid of it. Like, there's literally no point. And I remember having this discussion one time with this girl I knew. Uh, she was convinced for whatever reason. She's like, the only reason you think daylight savings time is stupid is because it's the government's idea. Like, I'm pretty sure if the government wasn't behind it, you wouldn't have that much of a problem with it. It's just the libertarian part of you that's like, because the government started this, it's therefore stupid. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, that literally makes no sense. And she's like, but how would like farmers survive? Like, how would they be able to operate if we didn't have daylight savings time? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, when the time changes, or, when like the seasons change and all of a sudden it's like they need to wake up earlier to get the crops going. She's like, what about all the stores that they would need to shop at? They wouldn't wake up as early as farmers. So isn't daylight savings time like a good thing that where they open up at the same time as farmers so that when they go out they can buy the stuff they need? I'm like, that is the dumbest fucking argument ever. Like, why do you think coffee shops open at like 5 a.m.? Because they know their clientele. They know that people are on their way to work. And when they're on their way to work, they want coffee, so they open earlier. That's what separates bad businesses from good businesses. A bad coffee shop would be like, I don't want to wake up at 5 a.m. Fuck that. Let's wake up at 8:30, open our shop at 9. And then everybody's already at work and you're getting no, like, that was the dumbest argument ever. I'm like, you really think all these farmers would be waking up at 4 a.m. trying to get fertilizer that they need? All the stores are closed out. You don't think there would be some sort of dialogue there? Like, hey, we have to wake up like an hour earlier because if we wake up at our normal time, the sun's already out. We got to get a head start on the day. You don't think they could coordinate this shit? Or that the fucking people that run the stores that supply the farmers were at one point farmers and they kind of know how this shit works? I was like, what a dumb fucking argument. She thought she had me. She thought I wouldn't be able to have some sort of explanation as to why daylight savings time is dumb. But yeah, I think it's dumb just from the point of view of, like, why are we doing this? It doesn't make sense anymore. But then once you add in all the health issues, suicide, depression, anxiety, everything else going up every time the time changes, it's like, can we just end this? Anyway, enough of me ranting about daylight savings time. Which, speaking of, it's 2 o'clock right now, which means it'll probably be dark in 2.5 hours. So that always sucks, right? Don't you hate it when it's like 4:30 and it's already dark? You're like, oh my God, this is the worst. All right, anyways, let's get started on this week's show. One thing I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, please download my free book, Bodyweight Basics, Fundamental Exercises and Equipment for Home Workouts. Please download this and leave a rating if you don't mind. That would be greatly appreciated. This helps me out a lot on Gumroad. And also, I just think you guys are going to enjoy the book, especially if you're not working out today, but you want to work out. This is a great way to get started. And I do have another book on the way. This is just kind of covering the basics, some of the equipment you might want to buy, very basic exercises. There's not too much involved there in terms of like, on Monday do this, on Wednesday do that, Friday do this. I kind of just let you take those exercises and run with it. But I do want to provide something like that. So my next book, which will be a paid book, not sure exactly what the price is going to be yet, but that I will actually provide workout plans. It's probably going to be home exercises, no equipment, along with home exercises with just a kettlebell. So be on the lookout for that pretty soon. Got that in the works right now. As my blender bottle gets camouflaged by this green screen background. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about billionaires. That is the title of my stream, right? How to become a billionaire. And the reason I bring this up is, one, I see a lot of hate online in general, people hating on billionaires because they have too much money. Nobody should ever need that much money, so they should either be taxed crazily or there should like be a cap on how much money you can make. And honestly, I think if you have this opinion, you're just kind of brain dead. Like, I legitimately cannot really understand having this opinion as like a grown adult. If you're 7 and you're like, life just seems like a playground. Why does that one person have $1 billion when they could just give it to a bunch of other people and everybody would have $1 million? Like, I'm a little bit forgiving of that because they're fucking 7. But if you're a grown ass adult and you're like, nobody should ever need $1 million, ugh, this is so disgusting. I'm not saying there aren't problems to be solved, and I'm not saying that there aren't certain billionaires who might have acquired their money in not so optimal ways where there's like the government helping them out or the government providing certain benefits to artificially create companies that are bigger than they should be. But there are valuable times and there is a reason for billionaires to exist. One, because they tend to do pretty impressive things to get that much money. But then two, once they actually get that money, I don't think people realize that they're not just like sitting around on their cash. I would guess most billionaires are trying to do something with that money. Now, it might not be to the point to where they're like, let me find a charity that's going to solve world hunger, but they're doing something with that money. And this is an example of one of those. Sam Altman, who is I don't know, I think he leads Y Combinator now. But Y Combinator, if you know Y Combinator, what in the fuck? Sorry, my screen went crazy. I don't think you guys saw that. Y Combinator, they fund a bunch of startups, right? They have recently invested in this company called Helion. Now, I don't know if YC did it, YC the company did it, or if Sam did it on his own. But Helion is a company. Here's their actual website. Oh my God, they raised $500 million. Jesus. But let's see. David and Chris are two of the most impressive founders and builders in the sense of building fusion machines. Where is it? They and their team have built a generator that produces electricity. Helion has a clear path to net electricity by 2024 and has a long-term goal of delivering electricity for 1 cent per kilowatt hour. Now, I'm no expert in the energy space, I should say. But I would imagine having cheap energy is an amazing thing, right? That allows more people to have access to energy. That allows us to take energy to places that need it and provide it at a very low cost. Now, obviously, there's a potential here that this just doesn't pan out and they have very ambitious claims and it turns out to be nothing, which is actually the first good part about this, is that if Helion does turn out to be bust, if it turns out to just be nothing, let's say it's like a Theranos, however you pronounce it, let's say it's all just junk science. The people who take the hit here are Sam Altman, Y Combinator, and anybody else who invested into this. Whereas when the government invests into shit like this, one, you always have to wonder, are they playing favorites? Is this Nancy Pelosi's best friend? And that's why the government is pursuing this project and giving them hundreds of millions of dollars? Or is this actually like the most technically feasible way to get cheap energy? You never really know when the government's involved. And even if it is a good bet, even if there is no conflict of interest or anything like that, if it turns out to be a failure, the taxpayers are on the hook for this, right? So that's the number one reason, or I think those two things are kind of related. But that's the big reason why I don't like government investing into this. And also, let's say Sam is like, Helion's the way forward. But then Mark Andreessen's like, nope, that's not going to work. This is the way forward. And then fucking Warren Buffett's like, actually, neither one of those are the options. This is the future, right? When you live in a world like that, you actually have a ton of rich people putting money into something they believe is going to be successful. And we get options there. We're not directly involved, but those billionaires are giving them money. And if one of those fails, we at least have some other options. It's like, oh, Sam Altman's didn't work out. Maybe Warren Buffett's will. Maybe Mark Andreessen's will. We don't know. But when the government gets involved, it tends to be putting all of our eggs into one basket. Are we going to pursue solar? Are we going to pursue wind? Are we going to pursue nuclear? Like, which one is it? Whereas the free market's going to pursue a bunch of different options. And Helion might exist with a bunch of other different options. We don't really know. Maybe Bitcoin mining, maybe cryptocurrency mining, they're looking for very cheap electricity because they want to mine these cryptocurrencies, but they don't want to spend a ton of money doing it because otherwise that just eats into their profits. Cryptocurrency might drive new forms of energy, new forms of creating energy. So there's all different ways that we can get to this end result. But this is why this is what I think people don't understand about billionaires. Like, what an insane road to go down. And imagine what Sam Altman's days had to look like as he's trying to figure out, hey, how feasible is this? And is this worth giving them hundreds of millions of dollars? That's not something you can just do easily. Even if you have access to that cash, even if you're raising it from a bunch of people. You think like rich motherfuckers are so rich, they're like, here's $50 million. I don't care if I never see it again. Like, they want more money to come back from that. So if this turns out to be nothing, his reputation takes a hit. He's had to have invested in this company. He's had to have gone to visit them, talked with other scientists, other researchers that know about this space, getting demos from this. Like, how realistic is this? And how much am I willing to bet? So the reason I bring this up is to really kind of dive into what these companies do. And I'm breaking this down a little bit, kind of assuming you're not a programmer, maybe you don't have a programming background. But let's just look at a company like Shopify, all right? So if you don't know what Shopify is, it allows you to make an online store, right? If you have something that you can sell, let's look at Detour. So they have Detour Coffee. It's a different example. But right, you have like coffee shops here, beauty and cosmetics, home and garden, jewelry shops. So let's say you're a business and you want an online store, right? Pre-Shopify, this was a little hard. You would have to go to a web development company. You would have to scope out what you need. Then they would have to custom build everything for you, right? They'd have to make you a website. They'd have to make a checkout system. They'd have to integrate with some sort of payment processor. They have to make it like mobile responsive for everything. But it's like very tailored to one specific business, right? And that alone is a hard thing to do. If you've never done that, it's a hard thing to do. And it's still being done today. One, because some businesses don't know about Shopify. Two, some web development companies know about Shopify, but they're like, we can make it for you and charge you an ass load and make a ton of money, rather than saying, hey, you could just create a Shopify account and spend like $100 a month and you don't have to deal with this. But you get my point. But think about what Shopify has to do, right? So if you're Shopify, you're looking at like brick and mortar stores. So let's look at this coffee one specifically. So if you're a coffee shop, you have like various products. You have coffee. You might have coffee makers. You might have uh accessories. You might have subscriptions and one-time purchases. Jeez. What else could a coffee shop have? Um, let's just go with that. So those are your products, right? Let's say you're like building Shopify and you're looking at brick and mortar stores. Right now, we're just looking at one type of business, right? So think about coffee. Now you're like, okay, what all is involved with coffee? Well, you're going to want like quantity. You're going to have like various attributes like bag size. You're going to have ground versus whole beans. And that can even get more diverse or more detailed because you might have different grinds for like espresso machines versus French presses versus AeroPresses versus, you know. So then you have like coffee makers. There might be different colors, sizes, right? Like the actual size of the French press, like a half liter versus a liter. That seems kind of big for a coffee maker, but you get my point. So you have colors and sizes. You might have like add-ons and then accessories, probably the same thing. You have colors, sizes. Let's just do colors here. And then subscriptions and one-time purchases, right? That's where things really start to get complicated because one time is easy, but subscription, now you need a way to like automatically determine that, automatically create invoices. There might be like returns. So recurring invoices. Then you get into like returns and shit like that. And then if you're having subscriptions, then you're also going to need accounts and account management. So think about this. This has taken like 3 minutes, and these are all the various things that you have to think about whenever you're selling an online store. And this is just for coffee. And this is step 1. This actually might be like step 10 in reality. But if you're thinking about making Shopify to handle coffee shops, this is like one of the first things you're thinking of. And then you have to take this and start to actually come up with a way to make this scalable. That it doesn't just work for that one coffee shop you talk to down the street, but it actually works for like most coffee shops. That you're capturing all of the different types of logic, all the different types of like use cases and products that coffee shops might have, right? But then think about this. If you're Shopify, you're like, no, we don't want just coffee shops. We want beauty and cosmetics. We want home and garden, food and drink, jewelry. So think about something like clothing. You might have quantity, but you don't really have bag size. Because with coffee, you might have like 16-ounce bag versus 32-ounce bag. But then when you're talking about clothing, now you have like small, medium, large, extra large. Or if it's not a shirt, you might have like 32-inch waist, 34-inch inseam. Shit starts getting really complicated just for products. When it was coffee, we didn't have to think about this type of stuff. We didn't have to think about clothing size, inseam, waist size, and all the different things there. So already you see how this is going to start to get pretty complicated pretty quick. But let's keep it to coffee. Now you have this. Let's say you've gone through like an entire day of a coffee shop. You're literally like pen and paper watching everybody in the store doing what they do so that you can digitize every part of what they do. Now you need somebody to take all this stuff and start to represent it in a database. Because all this stuff has to be stored somewhere, right? When you log into Shopify, you already have an account, pulls up all your products. That came from somewhere. That came from a database somewhere that's tied to your account. So now you have to start thinking about, okay, we need to find somebody who knows databases well enough, knows business well enough to be able to take all of this, and this is literally 1% of what you actually need, and actually map this to a database. Now, if you're a technical founder, the good news is you can do this yourself. But let's say you're not a technical founder. Now you've hit big hurdle number one. One, if you manage to even create this, bravo. You're pretty good at doing some pretty technical stuff without knowing technology. But now you need to hire somebody. You need to hire somebody who can take all this, and this might be like in a document somewhere that you've just written down, not in this format, but you had interviews with a coffee shop and you had conversations with them. So that database guy is going to have to go through all your notes, come up with something like this to start making a database for a coffee shop. So there's your first hire, or there's your first task if you're the technical founder. But now you need all of this stuff in this database to be in a website. So that's where you start hiring a front-end developer. Because let's say that database guy creates all the database logic, even creates the API, which is going to send all this data to an app or a web page. Now you have to hire a front-end developer. The front-end developer has to consume all that and create the UI that allows you to create a new product and allows you to specify that product has a quantity field. Yes, you can buy more than one. Oh, it has different sizes, and these aren't sizes like small, medium, large. These are actually like ounce sizes. And they have to create a UI that allows you to maybe specify one or many different sizes. And they need to worry about, is there variations on these sizes? Okay, that makes even more complexity because you can have 16-ounce ground, 16-ounce whole, 32-ounce ground, 32-ounce whole. Things are getting pretty crazy pretty quick, right? And that's just for adding a product. Now they have to worry about, okay, not only are we pulling in data from this API, now we have to present it in a way that makes sense for our users. Okay, now the designer gets involved because the front-end developer might be able to put all that stuff onto a page and it works, but it's not intuitive. Jane from down the street who owns Detour Coffee opens up your app and is like, I have no idea what the fuck this is. Right? It doesn't make sense. So now you have a front-end developer and a designer collaborating to meet somewhere in the middle. Because the front-end developer is like, hey, look, all this stuff that I have, it works. The designer's like, okay, that works, but it needs to be presented like this. So now the front-end developer is having to fit all their technology into that design. And we're just at products. That's all we've done. We haven't gotten to these other types of products. We haven't gotten to accounts. We haven't gotten to integrating with payment processors. We haven't gotten to, hey, what does a product look like when you can subscribe to it? Does that need its own UI? How does it look when you're generating that product? Oh, and then once we actually get all this stuff in place, now we need a way for them to customize their page. They need to be able to take all that stuff we came up with, the back-end guy developing this, the front-end person developing it, the designer coming up with a good middle ground. Now we need to also have some way for them to take these products, place them on a web page in whatever way that they think looks nice, brand it with their own stuff. Oh yeah, we also need an image upload so that they can put their logo here. Oh yeah, we also need to capture images of all their different products. Oh yeah, some people like to have 3 different images of their products. Oh, certain products you need nutrition information. Certain products like clothing, you don't. Do you see how crazy this gets? How complex this gets? When it seems like something relatively straightforward, you're walking down the road, you're in like Main Street in your town, there's all these little boutique shops. Like, it doesn't seem like it'd be that crazy to just make a website, have all this stuff. But when you're trying to build a Shopify that can handle all of these types of businesses, all of these different types of products, all of these different edge cases, it's not that easy. And then you have some people that are like, well, we need to accept PayPal. Some people are like, we want to accept crypto. Some people are like, hey, we need wire transfers. Hey, we operate here. We don't even have access to Visa. Like, shit's getting crazy real fast, right? But this is what Shopify does. This is what their business has done. And during that entire time, if you're the CEO, you're having to bring people into your company, bring them up to speed on what you're doing, train them, manage them, talk to customers, deal with their complaints, deal with their feature requests. Oh, that employee's bitching again. Somebody called them by the wrong pronoun. You have to put out that fire. There's a million things you're doing. It's bad enough when your company's 4 people, and then a year later, now it's like 20 people. You're managing 20 people. Oh my God, Christmas is coming up. They want a Christmas party. Oh my God, next month, this guy's having a kid. He's our number 1 developer. He's going to be out for 3 months. Fuck, what are we going to do? All this stuff happens, and they still somehow manage to get to a point to where businesses use them. Businesses love them. And any random business in Atlanta that wants to sell their stuff online can open a Shopify account. They have this little UI. Let's actually look at this. Hold on. Creating account real quick. YouTube Live. Oh, that already exists. YouTube Live AMS. 1 second. No. Let's do jewelry. Come on, come on. Sorry, I thought this was going to be a little quicker. The onboarding's a little slow with Shopify. Come on, there we go. So yeah, here we go. So yeah, you have your theme, you have your domain. Yeah, that's the other thing. You have to integrate with domains. You have to do that in a way that's easy for the average person to do it who probably doesn't even know what the fuck a domain is. You have payments. Oh yeah, where are you shipping from? Oh, you might need to integrate with point of sale to track inventory so your inventory online accurately reflects what's in your store. But yeah, let's just look at a product just to see. Okay, so we'll add a test title here, description. You have our files, pricing, cost per item, SKU, barcode, quantity, physical product. And this is just product. Oh yeah, you might have gift cards you want to offer. Hmm. Let me go back to Shopify main. So eventually you get to a point to where anybody can go into this UI, create products, open up a store just by clicking a bunch of buttons. Because look, going back to this whole thing, like creating products, like this is what we came up with. And all of this eventually needs to be in the browser. But then the front-end developer is making this, but then the designer has to make this too. The designer has to coordinate with the front-end developer to know what is possible visually, to know what's easy to develop visually, and then making it simple enough to where anybody who happens to use this isn't super confused, where they kind of get how to do this on their own so that they're not hand-holding them through every part of the process. But that's what Shopify's been able to do. They've been able to do this so that they can have people from any industry open up a store. And they've done this well enough that people choose to use them. That people are like, I need an online store, Shopify. I need an online website, Squarespace. I want to start posting videos on YouTube. You have that one go-to. So they've solved this problem, what used to be a one-off. And I'm just curious about their pricing too. How much is their pricing? Even if you're paying their mid-tier, it's $80 a month. So $960 a month. If you did that privately through a web developer, you'd be spending like 10 grand to get a fucking online store set up. So Shopify, if we're being generous, has cut your costs by 10. A tenth of what you would have had to pay. But they're betting on scale. They're betting on the fact that they've created this once, they can launch it out in the world, and anybody who needs this can just sign up, use it, and for the most part, they can walk themselves through it. They have an online store that's working. Hopefully don't need to call support every other day. And this changes so many people's lives. This saves so many people money. This makes their lives easy. And when the creator of a company like this sells or gets acquired, people actually have the audacity to say, I think they make too much money. I think there's no reason they should be a billionaire. Why? Think of what they've done. Think of the problem that they've solved. Not only is it difficult to just do it, like at a theoretical level. Like this is kind of the stuff that you do in like programming classes when you're in college. It's like, okay, imagine you're Shopify. What does their database look like? And that's your week project, right? It's hard enough to do that at a theoretical level. But then to actually execute, to hire the right people, to get everybody to play well with each other, to scale, to find those companies that are willing to use your product when you have no customers. And then they're able to scale this to thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of businesses that are using this. And they all find it valuable. They're all like, oh my God, $80 a month to use this? Worth it. This saves me money. Spending money saves me money. And then you have some fucking idiots out there that are like, I don't think Shopify should have made that much money. Why are they worth that much? Do you realize how dumb this is? To criticize the people that are doing shit like this, how hard it is to do that. If you don't think it is, Just a little test. Write an ebook. Write an ebook on anything you think you have worth telling people about, or a skill you feel like you can teach people something new. Sell that for $5, $10, whatever you want, and try selling 10 copies. That's my goal. If you're listening to this and you're like, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, building a business like Shopify is hard, but I don't think they should be billion. I don't think it's that hard. Try doing it. Selling anything that you make. Make something. Go online. Try to sell it. Make $100. It's a lot harder than you think. It's actually harder. It's actually hard to get people to download free shit. You can give away stuff for free. Like, hey, here's this free book I wrote on learning JavaScript. You should go download it, post it on social media, and see how many downloads you get. It's really hard to get people to act on this stuff. But then when somebody does, when somebody is actually able to convince people to give them $30 a month, $80 a month, $300 plus a month for something that helps them run their business, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of businesses out there are paying them, providing value, saving them time, removing the mess of having to like deal with returns and exchanges and all this, setting up the payment process. Shopify just manages all that for you and is like, hey, just give us your bank account. We'll deal with the rest. If they want to pay with Bitcoin, we'll handle that. If they want to pay with PayPal, we'll handle that. Just give us a routing number, give us a bank account number. You're good. They do that. They make a multi-billion-dollar company, and people will actually be like, I don't think they deserve that. They're too rich. And think about how much you learn in that process. Think about how much you learn as the CEO of Shopify, because they probably did start out with a certain type of business, right? They probably did start like this, where it's like, let's just go to coffee shops. But then once they got through coffee shops, they're like, okay, now let's do beauty and cosmetics. How does that change Spotify? Okay, now we have products for men, products for women. Coffee didn't have that. Now we have like certain categories, like for dry skin, for moist skin. Okay, that's a little different. Now we have like different filters, or we have like different. Trying to think about beauty and cosmetics. Point is, it's a little bit different than coffee. It's not just like, here's a small bag, here's a big bag, ground or whatever. Gets a little different, especially clothing, because then you start having different sizes in terms of like not just 16-32 ounce. Now you have like inseam, waist size. Now you need like a little preview on different body types. You know, what does this look like on a 170-pound man? Okay, a medium looks good for me. As you're moving from business to business or from industry to industry, if you're the CEO, you're learning so much about the way these businesses operate that when you move to something like Helion, investing in them, you know a lot about how businesses are built, a lot about how businesses are operated. So even just talking to these guys, you're on a pretty good standing to know, like, hey, what's your step one? What's your step two? What's your step three? How are you going to get there? And you've talked to so many businesses, you've seen how this stuff works, that you start to have a pretty good gauge of this stuff. You start to be able to make more educated decisions about this. And that knowledge, that value is part of the reason why these people make more money, right? Because now they know. Now they have access to capital, having done it themselves. Now they know what to look for. Oh, this business thinks they're doing well. Let's take a look at them. It's like when you see on Shark Tank, they start digging into the business more and more, more and more. Wait, how much are you making per product? Like 1%. They're like, whoa, you have no margins. Why? What's going on here? Nobody will buy it for a higher price, and our costs are really high. And they're like, why would I invest in a company that has 1% profit margin? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, they just know that's not going to work. This is why these people get richer and richer. It's not just because, I don't know, fucking white man favoritism, whatever you want to say. Like, these people know how this works. They can talk to certain companies and, like, project. Start to see, like, what are you guys doing? How are you going to get there? What does this look like? Have you thought about this hurdle? Have you thought about that hurdle? Have you thought... And if they have good answers, they've already, like, foreseen all this stuff. It's like, oh, these guys might be a pretty good bet. And then they bet on them, along with 10 other bets. And then one of them pays off, and they 10x their fucking return or 100x their return. Now, instead of having $50 million, they have $500 million. And they made a good bet. That business proved themselves, made money, provided value, made a return. The investor got their money back, and people are like, why do they have so much money? Like, oh my God. Yeah. So that's what I felt like talking about today. Hopefully that wasn't the dumbest fucking rant ever. But I just felt like giving a little bit of insight into how complicated some of this stuff can get. And again, we were just talking about coffee. It can get even, much, much crazier than that. But I just wanted you guys to have an idea. And if you want me to, like, do this in more detail, leave a comment if you're like, that was a little sloppy, but I thought it was interesting enough. Or if you're like, hey, do a dedicated video to, like, really dig into this. But yeah, just because I don't think people really understand how impressive some of these companies are. It's one thing to build an online store for one company. That alone is difficult enough. But to do it to where you feel confident to say, hey, if you're a business and you want to be online, use our app. We got you. And if they're like, but we're a coffee shop. Yeah, we're good. But we sell health and beauty. It's okay. Actually, we sell clothing. It's fine. We sell fitness equipment. Yeah. You want to sell stuff online? We got you. That's impressive. And that is worth $1 billion. And that's why Shopify is worth $1 billion. And I imagine the person who made a ton of money off of that is now going to flip to the other side. Maybe they'll, start another business. Or maybe they're going to say, you know what? Let me find the next Shopify. Because I know what it takes to get there, but I don't want to do that shit again. I'd rather just give the people money who I know can do it and I'm confident will do it. That's why billionaires are important. That's why investors are important. So yeah, there's my rant about me kissing the ass of some rich people. So Peter Thiel, if you heard this, please send me money to my Bitcoin address. I really need it. That's what it always turns into, right? If you defend rich people at all, people are just like, we get it. You're a billionaire bootlegger. It's like, no, I actually think these guys provide value. All right. Anyways, guys, that is all I have for today. You guys are awesome. Thank you for joining me today if you watched. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, and I will be back next Sunday, November 14th. So I'll see you guys then. Later.